So I found this archive of old Istanbul photos, and right off the bat, it's found what looks like Tartarian architecture. I've went through. I've made it up to about page 60 of 374, and pulled out just some interesting photos here. So we'll go through these. Just look at some of the architecture and see if it looks like the Tartarians were down in the area of Istanbul. So first of all, it's just what I seen from the world fairs and mud flood type of architecture. Here you've got the window buried, and maybe they just want to get light into the basement. That's one idea, but this one there'll be a few photos of it. I'll come back to this one later. And most of these it'll have something about it down here, so you can kind of have an idea of what you're looking at. And just some of this architecture, you can see these massive buildings like you would see in Chicago or San Francisco from the world fairs, and elegant architecture like this piece right here. I thought this one was interesting. You just, nothing too fancy here, but obviously a lot of old ruins. It looks like there's a cemetery here, and just this massive tower coming up in the background. And something like this is, again, it reminds me of what you see at the world fairs, especially the San Francisco World Fair. And it nice carvings. It looks very similar to what I would call Tartarian. Now here is, a star fort is, I guess, it looking like a star fort out here. The top of the tower here is chopped off. Obviously a very old ruin there. Once again, maybe Greco-Roman, but if you ask me, looks like Tartarian. This one was nothing too special here. Just kind of this archway over here. You can see in the on this building, there used to be obviously a wall or another part of the building, and some kind of archway right here that had gotten filled in. This one, it looks like a United States government building or something with the eagles on it. And it just looks like there's a lid from one of the coffins, and it looks like they're just, a lid's laying down here on the ground, like the place has just been looted. Obviously destruction here, but the lid here threw me off guard. I'm not sure what happened over there. Nice new building. Looks like, again, the U.S. Capitol building or something along those lines. But this kind of looks like a palm tree, but up here it looks like it's broken. Looks like a stone column that's carved out and it's broken here. You see this, just a dinky little ladder over here, and stones laying around, junk laying in the street. The statue over here is missing its head. Just interesting photos here. This is, you've got just old ruins, junk laying in the middle of the road. And then you've got the obelisk with what looks like Egyptian hieroglyphs on there. Obviously a basement for a building used to be here. And just grazing animals. We've got cows just hanging out where there used to be obviously a massive city with this obelisk. And I will take a real quick pause to bring up the Masonic Encyclopedia of Freemasonry here, and where it's talking about Enoch, because it's related. It's possibly related to this obelisk. You'll see in later pictures there's a pair of these, and they're inscribed with these hieroglyphs that look Egyptian. But they might be from Enoch, and I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'll at least take a quick read here. It says that the traditions of Freemasonry closely connect him by history of the institution, and they basically are saying that Enoch was a Freemason, or started Freemasonry, or something along those lines. Enoch introduced the speculative principles into the Masonic creed, and that he originated its exclusive character. One tradition states that he received from God the gift of wisdom and knowledge, and God sent him 30 volumes from heaven filled with all the secrets of the most mysterious sciences. They say he was the first to give instruction on the celestial bodies, that he foretold the flood that was to overwhelm his descendants, that would be Noah, that he built the pyramids, engraving thereon figures of artificial instruments and the elements of sciences, fearing lest the memory of man should perish in the general destruction, or in the coming flood. So here is where we have the connection between Enoch and essentially Egyptians, that where he says that he built the pyramids and engraved thereon the figures. So that would, of course, line up with the Egyptian hieroglyphs. And he is also attributed with the invention of astronomy. Enoch was the first who invented books and writing. He taught men the art of building cities. He discovered the knowledge of the zodiac and the course of the planets. And he inculcated the worship of God by fasting, prayer, alms, offerings, and tithes. We learn that a sacred presence appeared to Enoch and gave him instructions to preserve the wisdom of the antediluvians, or the people from before the flood, because with the exception of one family, they are all going to be destroyed by the forthcoming flood. And that family, of course, is Noah. The circumstances which occurred at that time are recorded in tradition, which forms what has been called the Great Masonic Legend of Enoch, which runs to this effect. Enoch, inspired by the Most High, built a temple underground dedicated to God. The temple consisted of 9 brick vaults situated perpendicularly beneath each other, and he caused a triangular plate of gold to be made, each side of which was a cubit long. On the plate he engraved in ineffable characters the true name of deity, and placed it on a cubical pedestal of white marble. Now, ineffable means too great or extreme to be expressed or described in words. So too great or too extreme to be described in words, he used ineffable characters. And that's another, once again, sounds like hieroglyphics, because it, it's not using words, but it's describing with characters. With the subterranean building completed, he made a door of stone, attaching it to a ring of iron, which might occasionally be raised. But he was not permitted to enter it but once a year. And upon the death of Enoch, Methuselah, and Lamech, and the destruction of the world by a flood, all knowledge of this temple and the sacred treasure which it contained was lost, until in later times it was accidentally discovered by another worthy of Freemasonry, who, like Enoch, was engaged in building a temple on the same exact spot. Now we're at the part where these obelisks come in, that we have an obelisk here with hieroglyphs on it. The legend goes to inform us that Enoch had completed the subterranean temple, fearing that the principles of the arts and science which he had cultivated, would be lost in the flood, he received a prophetic vision and erected 2 pillars, one of marble, and which is going to withstand the influence of fire, and the other of brass to resist the action of water. Enoch wasn't sure if the world would be destroyed by fire or by water. Obviously, the flood came, but he constructed 2. So we've got one that's good. The brass one's going to resist the water, and we've got the marble one, which is going to withstand the fire. On the pillar of brass, he engraved the history of the creation, the principles of the arts of the sciences, and the doctrines of speculative Freemasonry as they were practiced in his times. So, oops, I flipped the page, but the Freemasons are saying that Enoch is practicing the doctrine. Enoch is practicing Freemasonry in his time. On the one with marble, he inscribed the characters in hieroglyphics, importing that near the spot where they stood, a precious treasure was deposited in a subterranean vault. Adam's prediction that the world was to be destroyed at one time by the force of fire and another by the violence and quantity of water. They made 2 pillars. Here it says brick and the other of stone. This is from Joseph's account. So a little bit different account, but the same exact story, that the pillar of brick should be destroyed by the flood and the pillar of stone might remain. So they did, they're doing the same thing here. They're building 2 pillars, one of different type. And let's remember that one is made of brick, according to this story. And it says that the one of brick still remains in the land of Syriad to this day. Now, the photos we're looking at are from Istanbul. Syriad is supposedly Egypt, but they are somewhat close, and it's possible that it says that these pillars remained in the land of Syriad to this day. It's just, it rung a bell when I was looking at these pictures. Especially when we see the other one of these towers. There's 2 of these here. One of them has hieroglyphs on it, and the other one is made of brick. So, this is, I don't know if this is the 2 towers that Enoch built, but maybe they're replicas of them. But it sounds awful familiar. This one could be white marble, and this one is, definitely made out of brick. One of them is inscribed with hieroglyphs, and it's just a perfect match for what is described in the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry as to Enoch. And Enoch, having completed these labors, called his descendants around him to Mount Moriah, warned him about the flood that there's coming because of the wickedness, and to return to the worship of the true God. Masonic tradition informs us that he then delivered up the government of the craft, so the government of Freemasonry, to his grandson Lamech, and disappeared from earth. And Enoch is definitely one special guy. He's supposedly did not die. The Bible has the same account, and he walked with God. And this is, of course, we get the same account from the Freemasons here in their encyclopedia. But moving on with the photos, let's keep that in mind as we're looking at these pillars with hieroglyphs. And we see that there's actually 2 pillars, and they're both made of different materials. And one of them has hieroglyphs. And we see these guys here, and it's just, you could see again, the ruins here, just junk laying around, but the people walking around, you could see here, it's, sitting on the statue, seemingly no idea. They just seem out of place. It doesn't look like they certainly didn't build these. They didn't build these cities or these obelisks. And I don't know what's going on here, but it looks like maybe a dog, but it looks like a Black Panther. I was definitely very intrigued by these 2 pillars that seem to match the Freemasonry's encyclopedia of something that Enoch may have built. A lot of pictures of them, and you could see in the foreground there's, you know, just ruins here all over this whole area. This one is broken. It seems to be right in the middle between the two obelisks, and it's called something about the serpent. We'll see that in a later photo, but it's obviously broken right there at the top. You know, you see cities like this, and it's like there's just dogs and cows roaming around, and yeah, maybe everyone's busy at work. I don't know, but it looks completely abandoned, almost like the people who built these cities got raptured, disappeared off the face of the earth, and some other people just stumbled in, didn't know what to do, so they just sit on the ground and sit in the dirt. Here we have looks like Jesus here, maybe Muhammad, I'm not sure. And you know, big kind of Tartarian style looking architecture. Massive aqueduct it appears to be here. Quite the lengthy one. Another picture of it there. I'll go back to that for a second, but it looks like a lot of work and just ruins. It once upon a time would have been new and would have been taken care of. Not anymore. And the stripes, the black and white stripes that we'll see all over the architecture at Istanbul is quite similar to the some of the stripes you could see at the Chicago Fair. Here's a picture from Chicago in 1893 Chicago World Fair, and you can see that same style of kind of black and white, or at least striped, striped colors on the architecture, and it's you'll see it quite a bit in Istanbul over here. So interesting that we see kind of some similar architectural influences from Istanbul over in Chicago. Here we could look at this size of the horse here to get just a grasp for how big this thing is. It has looks like it has wires running up it. Maybe they're using those for climbing up, I don't know, but just a massive antenna up here. Maybe it's, you know, something to do with electricity, I'm not sure, but look at the size of the horse. This thing is huge. And same thing, massive building in the background, and just there's one guy on a horse, that's it. Nobody in sight. Just dirt everywhere. It's it looks like an abandoned city almost. This appears to be the same one. Picture of the same tower, but look at all the debris in the foreground. It looks burned, but definitely just lots of debris. I don't know what it's all from. Star Fort style architecture here with the tiered, Star Fort is what it is, and then beautiful looking home, overgrown. I mean, it looks overgrown and not taken care of, like it had just been sitting. This is probably the I don't know if that's the same house or not, but beautiful home. United States government building is what it would be if it was over in the United States. More ruins. You can see there's a pile of ruins here, and just grass and all kinds of stuff growing up here. It looked like the top of the tower has been knocked off, and probably architecture from different ages right there. A view of the Chateau De Europe, a massive castle, and the castle standing on here. And I'm not sure if the castle's built by Tartarians, maybe, but castles are rad either way. And these photographs are just mind-blowing. Stuff like this is just awesome, how it's completely overgrown. built by the ancient Tartarians is my speculation on that. And the modern day people just think it's a good idea to, put a shack into one of them, I guess. Look at the modern people's gate. They're like, I don't know. They remind me of like homeless people in San Francisco who just could not really care about their surroundings. They just trash it. They've got, the junkiest stuff you can imagine, but then they're surrounded by absolute splendor as far as the architecture and the ruins around them. Here's another picture of the same place, maybe at a different time, maybe a little further down the wall. Looking like mud flood over here in a way. This would be a stove, though, it looks like, with the chimney coming up. And but even over here, I guess another chimney for another person's house. So probably not a mud flood there, but look at the size of a human, so you can get an idea that, this thing is huge. Really a large wall. Beautiful architecture. I like how it's overgrown. It looks fascinating. And here, just complete and utter ruins. I know these guys are having a good time, but who's responsible for the upkeep of the city? Because somebody's not doing a very good job. And it's this one looks Tartarian. This one looks Tartarian. This looks Tartarian. This looks like they built it, and it looks like it's about to fall over. It looks like a Leaning Tower of Pisa. But these, some of the other architecture that we see in this photo looks like it may have been built by Tartarians. Here we have ruins. This is very similar to a tomb. And shout out to Olav over here. There is he has a video here on Kirch, and that's where this tomb is at. Here it is right here. So there's some more photos of it here. If I said Kirch tomb, you can see that the tomb here, which is interesting because if you look at a map of Tartary, very often you'll find this Al-Chai area. The mountain of Al-Chai, where the sepulchures of the kings of Tartaria. So the tombs of the kings of Tartaria, and they're depicted as pyramid-looking structures. You can see they look like pyramids, which is interesting because the Egyptians buried their kings in pyramids, and those were the pyramids are tombs, supposedly. But you can see that there is somewhat of a resemblance, how these are more. The angle is much greater than a regular pyramid, and that's the same thing that we see here. How that it's a much more up here to the point than a regular pyramid is. Here's an old painting of it, but we could see that is very similar to what we see in the photo right here. And so interesting. We'll see it in a number of these photos. This same type of tomb style is from the Kirch tomb. And again, check out Olaf's channel for more information on these type of tombs and the city of Kirch. Moving on with the slideshow here. This one I thought was interesting because it's modern. It's a little bit more modern. We can see we got some machinery going on. But we could see the architecture of a previous time, especially over here. And then you could see how the modern man is doing things. And look at his architecture. It is absolutely awful. So just funny how there's two different ages of architecture here. We've got the older style and the newer style. So newer is not always better. This one is just some ruins on the massive ruins. Very, very interesting city. I wish I could go take a trip to Istanbul real quick, and being in the 1800s would be even better. This tower is sure interesting. It's the Looks like we got Istanbul here. The some kind of a tower that is old for sure, and it's all beat up. There's not you can't even tell what it is anymore. It used to, obviously used to be something, but the top is missing, and whatever, it just looks like junk now. It looks like there's rope or barbed wire wrapped around it or something. So interesting. It's interesting pillar there, right in the middle of the city, and you can see some of the age of some of the architecture around it. It looks like a massive pile of just rubble over here, more ruins, and got a number of pictures of this tower just because it's a interesting tower right in the middle of the city. Here is this building. I think we've seen it right towards the beginning, and just at first it looked kind of like a mud flooded building in a way, how it had those, arches. This one, not too much going on except for it looks like pixel art, and I thought that was cool. Up here it looks like pixel art, and same thing, pixel art. It looks like it would fit in with Minecraft or something like that. And this is I think it's the same building, but it looks like they're selling stuff. They've got a broken head statue. They've got this statue's okay. This one's out here, just some random, just junk laying all over the place, and it looks like they're trying to sell it or clean the building out. You could see even more stuff, for sale down here, or I don't know if it's for sale, but this looks like a Roman soldier or something with the head and the arms missing, and not sure quite what's going on there. They're trying to sell stuff, but I think it's the same building, and all the I guess they sold everything and moved out. I don't know. Here we have a Tartarian building and a Tartarian dock. I'm gonna just call it that, I suppose. Looks to be, maybe the same thing here. And a better look at Enoch's pillar, if that's what it is. But we have, notice the sculpture down here on the bottom, because there's another close-up of this with all these faces here. We'll get a few closer shots of that. Here it is. And I couldn't quite make it out what it says down here, but anybody could have carved that in. But I was just wondering if this is Tartarian, or did Enoch carve it, or I don't know. I wish I had more answers. Lots of pictures of this pillar, and I included a lot of pictures because it's a connection to Freemasonry and Enoch. This city looking like San Francisco or Chicago, Chilaga, the World Fair cities is really what it looks like. And I would think it was built by Tartarians. The same thing here. And probably just another angle of the same city. This one really looked like San Francisco's World Fair. There's some better pictures of it coming up. And here we could see the Tartarian architecture, or what I believe is Tartarian. And also note that it's quite old. It's dirty down here, and the dock here is broken and starting to dip in. But nevertheless, quite the grand architecture. And another picture of it here. You can see everything's just cracked and looks quite old and abandoned. It seemed to be abandoned, but I guess Istanbul was not necessarily abandoned. Another look at this amazing gate here. Maybe they were building it here. I'm not sure. It doesn't really look like it. They got a couple of carts and a couple piles of dirt. That's about it. And then you have just fascinating architecture here. They're making progress. They at least put up a fence, it looks like. But then you have this here, which I don't know, it looks something quite older. Or maybe a railroad track or a little canal. And this photo is nice because we have just a little bit more detail. Beautiful looking entrance or gate into the city. You can see the ocean and the ships out here. Even a little floating house, a floating island out here. There's another picture of that later on. Same gate. And, you know, magnificent Tartarian architecture is, you know, I don't know if that's mud flooded. Probably, I'm not sure about that. I don't think so. It seems like sometimes they just put arches down at the bottom of the building. Maybe, like I said, to let light into the basement. We can see another picture of, it seems like that gate right there, going off into, you know, a lot more of these buildings. Another angle of that one. And just ruins. Nothing but ruins. This standing building here, and I don't know what happened to this house. That may, you know, maybe there's a mud flood because this thing looks like they just sunk right into the ground. A massive hole here. I don't know who would want to put a house so the roof is flush with the ground. And signs of, you know, these guys just don't look, they look out of place. You've got these old ruins, stone, huge, massive stone canal, abandoned, not used anymore. Some cheap little cemetery over here, they just put up a little wooden cross and call it good. And just these massive stone towers with way, you know, more architecture way back here. And then, you know, a bunch of folks just walking around in the dirt. No idea what to do with all this stuff. This one was interesting because, for one, these guys seem to spend a lot of time in the cemeteries. We've seen the, looked like some grave robbing earlier in the other one, but it looked like two different styles of headstones. You can see this style here, quite new, quite new, quite new. But then look in the back. Look at this one. This one looks really old. You know, no writing on it or anything. Same thing with this one, no writing on it. It looks super old. This almost looks like an owl. I'm not sure what. I've just never really seen a headstone like this. If you look right here, it looks like it was hit with a bullet or got, you know, lost a big chip out of it. A lot of the buildings in these photos look like they have some war damage. And again, just, you know, nice architecture, but it's going to ruin. And you got, you know, just chunks of rocks sitting around. And these guys, you know, just maybe they're taking a pose for the picture, but they're just sitting around in the dirt, no idea what to do. And this one is pretty nice. What of the I thought, where's the blueprint for this? Because the blueprint for this building has got to be a nightmare. If you pass that off to a current architect, he probably would have one heck of a time figuring out the blueprint for this building. That's going to give me a headache just thinking about it. Not too much to see here. A big building in the background, but I thought this guy was funny. He has seemingly missing his neck. He's just got shoulder straight to chin, it looks like. I like some of the photos that have the people in them. It's kind of cool to see what they look like and how they were dressed. Try to find different people of different professions. This guy obviously is part of the government or something like that. We had a very similar photo to this one earlier. Just a really fascinating tower in the background. And this one is a different tower. And here we have 3 or 4 different generations of architecture. We have, first of all, we got just like dirt and stone in the road and rubble, pile of rubble. We've got this old ruins here. Something much newer that's a complete piece of junk. Probably a different age here on this piece, and this one is totally something different. So just a nice mix of really old stuff, and the funny thing is the newest stuff is always the junkiest and the worst architecture. Ruins down here, and that'd be cool to have. Yeah, in the United States it's not quite as easy, but it'd be cool to live modern right alongside some of that ancient architecture. This one looks a little bit more like Italy, but taking the boats through the city, castle in the background. Just ruins is all you could say about. They just ruins. Maybe there was a war, that's why. I'm not sure, but it's a little wooden cart and just destroyed the thing. We got some kind of a pillar left, and that's about it. This one is really interesting because here we look like we have an arch that had got filled in at some point, but we also have a pentagram right here. So just a interesting house. Some interior, and you could see the condition of the interiors of these buildings. Once upon a time, immaculate and elegant, and I don't know if just nobody ever took care of it or if it got abandoned and repopulated. Huge Tartarian style, World Fair style building. And another one. And another one. Or, maybe it's the same one, but you could see the, it looks like the same one as this one. But you could see the triangular over the doorway, over the arch piece that we see, and so many Tartarian architecture. Some kind of a tower, just seems like it's abandoned, getting overgrown. Some more Tartarian looking type of architecture over in Constantinople. And this is another one, I'm trying to figure out where why they just sit around and hang out in in graveyards. It doesn't look like they're taking care of it. All the headstones are falling over, and they don't seem to be burying anybody either. They're just smiling and having a good old family time, I guess. Beautiful ruins. And you can see arches. I don't know if, there probably used to be water down here or something. And just massive towers and ruins. I'm not sure what this is, but it looks like Jesus here. We could see the halo around his head. Again, maybe it's Muhammad, but interesting to note that it's super old. But again, in this old piece of art, whatever it is, it must be architecture. It looks like this might be two doorways or something. But you could see the same style of architecture in this art. You got the archway here with the little bit of architecture there that's, I'm not sure. They seem to be Tartarian. Another interesting cemetery here. I think it's a cemetery, but again, all the headstones are falling over, and then you got this tower here, electrical wire going up, it looks like, and more ruins. Absolutely ancient. I mean, that thing's got to be hundreds of years old. It's funny to see the city, and then right in the middle of the city you've got this, completely out of place architecture. This tower, I don't know what it was used for, but from a much different time than the buildings all around it. And this looks like a boat. I don't know if it's a boat or if it's just a little island out there. But you could see a little houseboat or something like that. So on this one, it's pretty interesting just because it's the... I'm not sure what style of writing this is, but it's not what we would typically find in Istanbul. A nice place for a gazebo, hang out. It's a cool little gazebo, it looks like. And old. You can see how old this construction is, but quite a beautiful building right there. And here's another picture of it. These guys look like they come outside to sit down on a wall and have their picture taken. Might be the same building here. And I mean, the whole thing's in ruin. I mean, everything around here is just junk. It looks like just junk everywhere. This one is a really old ruins. Look at the arches over here that are just filled in now with probably mud. This one could definitely be a mud flooded city of some type, or star fort, either one. Look like the eagle up here with an all-seeing eye, or at least the 10,000 rays of light coming out of it. And another one of these old castles, which may or may not be Tartarian, but whenever you find that elegant architecture, it definitely seems to be. This one, of course, just an old, super old ruins. There used to be, stuff up here that's all gone now, and again, these people don't seem to be the ones who came after the people who built this. It doesn't line up. It look like these people seem to be, they just happened to discover it. But why would they be ancestors of the people who built this? Didn't their grandparents teach them to take care of the place? Well, once again, we got all the arches down here, overgrown. A building completely abandoned and in ruins. Grass growing on the ceiling, and the tower is breaking into pieces. Definitely a candidate for the mud flood theory here. You got these big, maybe some mud came in on that one. And this one, here is, again, these people don't look like they belong here, or they do not look like they're ancestors of the people who used to live here. I mean, this thing is beautiful architecture at one point. It looks like complete ruins now. But these guys are, just walking amongst it, and looks like more like they just inherited the city, or found it empty or something. Or maybe they just won the war and took it over. This is at the base of the Enoch's obelisk, I guess is what I'm calling it for the moment. But, face missing here, and very, very old. I wonder if that's Noah's family or a depiction of it. Picture of the one that's built out of brick. And you can see just the old ruins in the foreground. A couple of buckets over here. I don't know why the buckets are interesting. They probably aren't. And here was some architecture that certainly is beautiful, intricate, and aged. You could see it's not anything new, quite old, most likely built by Tartarians. I thought this one was funny because I don't know what it's for, just a huge tower. But it looks like a battery. I'm not saying it is a battery. It looks like, a C or a D battery. just the shape of it and the top piece up here. Another picture of the same tower, part of this big castle. And here, just you can see it has the same profile as a battery. I said maybe what was its purpose for it be so huge? And I guess just to keep watch, make sure the enemy wasn't coming. But what if it was the master Duracell? You could see windows and some kind of, I don't know, maybe they shot arrows out of it. Star fort looking type of castle here. And again, that tomb style of that seems to be here at a maybe a, you know, the priest, or I don't know what to call him for there over in Istanbul, but looks like a church or something along those lines. And the ladders always I find interesting because they've always got ladders set up, but then I'm like, did they really build all this architecture with just ladders? Just a big, massive building, and old, you know, looks abandoned. Looks, I mean, there's really nobody around. Maybe everybody runs out of the frame for when he takes a picture, but you know, you see something like this and it looks like the World Fair, the type of building that they would just throw up real fast for the World Fair. And just a couple people walking around. I guess everybody's busy on the other side doing architectural work. This one is a pretty cool picture with the old ruins. You can see the old arches down here that were filled in, and then this one maybe not filled in. So I guess a river run through here at one point, but not anymore. It's, again, just everything has fallen into ruins. Doesn't look like anybody took care of the place. Beautiful building, and again, that stripe, we see that striped, just like we've seen in Chicago. Here's a cool view of the obelisk again, and it looks like a tomb here and a sarcophagus or something. It's broken into pieces, and the lid's obviously been slid off, and then you got a chicken running around, you know. So it's just these people never seem to, they don't seem to really belong here, and it seems to be at least abandoned and in the process of being repopulated by a uncivilized, not that smart type of people in a way. Here's a dam, and there might be a little water here, but I mean, the dam looks completely empty and dry. Ruins of towers as far as the eye could see. And another shot of those towers. Towers and ruins as far as you could see. And just llamas, or maybe a llama or a dog. And cows, grazing animals. It's been, you know, it's been overtaken by animals. And from here, it looks like you're, you know, here's the old ancient Star Fort style of architecture right up to the water, and then the Tartarian buildings in the background. And these guys, you know, sitting around in the ruins, not sure what to do with themselves. They're going to climb a tree. And so you see everyone climbing a tree down here. But in the backdrop, you know, they've built their little houses in the footsteps of giants. Here you've got the great architecture in complete ruins. And, you know, they built something down here. It looks like you can go inside. There's someone, looks like they've built a house or something over here. And it goes inside of that structure. I wonder what, all these were supporting. Wonder what used to be here once upon a time. Obviously a building here that's gone, and just arches hanging off of nowhere. And this looks like an old cemetery. Maybe I'm wrong, but they look like headstones. Ancient headstones. Funny thing about a lot of these pictures is that the trees are like just completely dead and burnt. You can see up here it looks burned. And just like stripped clean. But then right behind it, the architecture's immaculate. Same thing here. Just this one was interesting because it has a pillar sticking out of the window. And I was trying to figure out, why do you have a pillar coming out of the window right here? A column. These guys looking down at the old ruins. You can see the ruins down here, and just, these ruins are so old they've almost disappeared into the ground as to be completely buried, and looks like just nature again. But there definitely used to be buildings here a long time ago. And same thing out here. You have just massive buildings, overgrown, not taken care of, and the horses are moving in to take over. The detail on some of this stuff is outstanding. And the size of the buildings are, again, outstanding. And I think about, well, here's a good example. This looks like they're actually building something now. The guys up here risking their necks. You can't mess up. You're going to fall down to your death, obviously. Or at least break your legs. And we could see them quarrying some stones here. They've got some stone blocks out. And it looks like they're bringing them up by using this wooden crane. And then they're climbing up top on these dinky little ladders here. So, it looks like they're building something here. But I just think about the power tools that we have nowadays. And with all of our power tools, what... these guys are running around with nothing. And we have all of these power tools, and we, engines and motors and all this stuff and everything, and we can't come close to building anything like this. But these guys, go around no problem. I don't know what this building is, but the roof is turned into grass, and it's just growing grass off the roof. Interesting looking stonework through here. But just old as can be, and the shape on this tower is eludes me what it's for. I don't know why a chimney would get, real big like that at the top. More ruins, old castles. This is that serpent. I guess it used to be a serpent or serpent statue, maybe. Here it is. It says the Colonnade Serpentine. So I'm not sure what this is, but you can see there's like broken pieces of it down here, it looks like. And it's right between the two obelisks in that city. And I think we're back at the first images now. And that was a lot of images to go through, but they're all very interesting. It looks like I have a 163 photos here. But as I said earlier, this archive of photos is 374 pages long. I only got through about 50 or 60 of them, and that's what we took a look at. I just, pulled out the most interesting ones. So, looks like there was Tartarians in Istanbul, and if nothing else, I enjoyed the photographs because architecture and the ruins are just fascinating. And like I was talking about earlier, I can't figure out why, with all of our power tools and supposedly an overpopulated Earth, so we have all the manpower, why can't we do anything even close to this? Not that one's blowing my mind. I can't figure out why we're so behind the curve architecturally. We think we're so advanced with our computers and cell phones and all that nonsense, but then, you know, you look at history and you say we're not as good as we think we are.